gives the state some concern, particularly with this being involving his mother as a victim. I would ask for a stay away from 3195 Benjamin E. Mays Drive and no contact with the victims. I would ask for no less than 15 aggregate for these cases, Your Honor.
All right. No drugs unless prescribed, no alcohol, no weapons, no further contact with Marquise Bentley or Mildred Smith. Stay away from 3195 Benjamin E. Mays Drive Southwest. So he's got a different address he's going to live at than that, right?
Yes, Your Honor.
All right. Ankle monitor paid for by the county with a 24-hour curfew. Court, lawyer, medical, employment. If you're enrolled in school, you have to provide proof of enrollment in school, where you're going to be going, and also name of your employer, proof of employment schedule, and the exact location you will be working. I'll split this in half, 5,000, 5,000, 1,500, 1,500. Best of luck to you, sir. You can leave the booth. And I put his name on my email. Let's see. Calvin Hartman. Is Miss Eustace?
It's going to be me as well tonight, Your Honor.
Oh, okay. I think Mr. All right. So it looks like with this, his bond was revoked at one time.
Yes, the bond was revoked in July.
Right? All right. So it says no bond, but previously it was, I'd set it at $41,250. So that's number one, Bostic 22 CP 208557, 96 days without indictment. Possession of cocaine with intent to distribute, possession of MDMA, possession of hydrocodone, possession of Schedule 3 controlled substance, possession of a firearm by a convicted felon, possession of a firearm or knife during the commission of or attempt to commit certain felonies, and possession of marijuana less than an ounce.
In regards to Mr. Hartman, open case 22 CP 213291, marijuana with the intent, MDMA with the intent, firearm doing firearm by. Open case 23 CP 219458, Schedule 2. Driving with suspended license. He's on probation for aggravated assault, 7/27/20, 3 years confinement, 3 years probation. Nothing further.
It looks like his bond was revoked, right? Because he allegedly committed another offense.
I believe that one of those open cases. Yes.
All right. All right. Go ahead, Ms. Strong.
Thank you, Your Honor. Mr. Hartman is 45 years old. He was born in Columbus, Georgia, and has lived in Georgia his entire life. He has lived at the same address on Hairston Place in Atlanta for the past 4 years with his friend, LaDonna Jackson. He has other family in the area. His brother, Jeffrey, lives in the Sandy Springs area. He has completed the 11th grade and also obtained his GED. He has been working for the same company, DNL Cleaning Service, since 2007. He has reason to believe that he will be welcome to return to that job upon being released. He has 2 children, ages 4 and 7, who live in 11th grade and also obtained his GED. Support too. He has been working for the same company, DNL Cleaning Service, since 2007. He has due to an FTA reason to believe that he will be welcome to return to that job, likely upon being released. Some mail that was he has 2 children, ages 4 and 7. So we are asking tonight to reinstate the initial bond that was granted in the amount of $41,250.
Gentlemen, keep your head up. Sit up straight. Sit up straight. Sit up straight. Sit up straight. We're almost done. What says the state?
The state is going to ask for a higher amount, Your Honor. The state would ask for no less than $150,000. The main concern is these 2 pending similar cases involving drugs. The one, 22 CP 213291, was set at $65,000, and then I want to say the 23 CP 219458 was set at $12,000. So I definitely don't see any reason why the bond would be set at least not less than $65,000, since a new charge he received was set at that. But the state is concerned with the fact the defendant violated the prior bond. I believe the order delegating bail, at least for the cocaine, would be $12,000 alone. But the state would just ask for that amount, concerned with risk to reoffend and a flight risk. Also, I believe the defendant failed to appear on April 28th, 23, involving this bond as well. But the state is concerned with defendant's history and that risk to reoffend, Your Honor.
All right. No drugs unless prescribed, no alcohol, no weapons. Stay away from 634 West Peachtree Street. Must provide an address upon release. You can have an ankle monitor paid for by the county with a 24-hour curfew. Court, lawyer, medical, employment, as long as you supply the name of your employer, place of employment, schedule, exact location you'll be working. And I think I said no drugs, no alcohol, no weapons, no further contact with Aquavius, Aquavis, last name Boozer. I'll do 12,000, 5,000, 5,000, 5,000, 10,000, 10,000, and then marijuana less than an ounce, UJR jail. 12, 5, 5, 5, 10, 10, and UJR jail. Best of luck to you, sir. You can leave the booth. All right, George Gibson. George Gibson.
Your Honor, we would like to waive sounding on this one, please.
All right, number 8, 2 counts, 23 CP 218519, 130 days without indictment, and there's no bond as of May 16th.
In regards to Mr. Gibson, 2 prior arrests, no convictions, nothing further.
Are those prior CWAC or?
Just talking to myself. I don't think so. I think they just regular misdemeanors. That's something I didn't even take note of.
Okay. All right, go ahead, Ms. Strong.
Mr. Gibson is 55 years old. He has a good address in Fairburn, Georgia, where he's lived for the last 9 years. He has lived in Atlanta for the past 29 years. He has 4 adult children, one of which lives in Atlanta. The other 3 live in Memphis. He has a GED as well as some college where he studied psychology at Walden University. He was previously employed as a bus driver. However, due to his time in jail, he has lost that job. He has no felonies, and he is not is fine with no contact with any of the people involved in this case. He does not live at the same address as the people involved in this case. He also has some concerns for his personal safety at the Fulton County Jail.
All right, what says the state?
Did want to just make sure, Judge, that no one here was from the CWAC unit.
Let's see, there's.
Believe so, but
I don't see any of the normal folks.
I can go ahead and handle it, Your Honor. The state would be
Okay.
asking for a very high bond in this case, especially given the allegations in the first count of child molest, or in the first count. The state is concerned with the nature of the allegations, particularly could be, well, I'll just leave it at the warrant is very severe for that nature of that charge.
Right, I've read the warrants.
Yeah, and the state's concerned with that, Your Honor. And the state would just ask for a very high bond, despite the fact the defendant has no prior convictions, Your Honor.
So what does that mean to you?
I would say at least 50 for each count, Your Honor. But
Does he have a house or anything like that, Ms. Strong?
He has an apartment in Fairburn, Georgia. He's lived there for the past 9 years.
No drugs unless prescribed, no alcohol, no weapons, no further contact with CW. And Miss Lewis, you can put the names on from my notes, but CW and SL.
Okay, Judge.
Paid for by the county with a 24-hour curfew. Court, lawyer, medical, employment, as long as you supply the name of your employer, proof of employment schedule, and the exact location you'll be working. No internet, no social media, and no further contact with anyone under the age of 18. 50 per count. But Ms. Strong, go ahead, wait a couple days, file another motion for bond. That way to get back on, okay?
Yes, Your Honor. Thank you.
Thanks, sir. You can leave the booth. Ray Dawson. All right. Number 20, Bostic. There's a $295,000 good bond as of May the 18th on position 20, 23 CP 215974. 231 days without indictment. Home invasion in the first degree, aggravated assault, possession of a knife or a firearm during the commission of a felony, willful obstruction felony, and criminal attempt to commit a felony.
This is his only prior Georgia arrest. Only other arrest and conviction was in 93 for a burglary out of Florida. Nothing further.
All right. Go ahead, Ms. Bader.
And Judge, thank you. Mr. Dawson has been in custody for 231 days. He was booked into the Fulton County Jail in the beginning of February. And he's been sitting on this current bond since May. So Judge, he is 59 years old. He is a veteran. He served in the Navy from 1982 to 1985. He does receive disability from the military, and he does have a good address where he could receive notice for court. And this is a Florida address. The one that the court has on file is correct.
Hold on a second. Everybody sit down, sit down, sit down, sit down, sit down, sit down. Nobody will see you adjust your pants or anything else. Something accidentally might happen. Nobody wants to see. Go ahead, Ms. Badar.
Judge,
address.
because of the length, the address on file is correct. It's 6617 Woods Island Circle. And Judge, like I said, he has been in since February. We're asking for a bond reduction so that the total bond does not exceed $25,000.
So does he have an address where he's going to live?
That is the address.
Oh, the Florida address?
That's correct.
Okay. What says the state?
They would ask for a bond of no less than 100,000. I do understand he doesn't have an extensive history, but just given the nature of the allegations in the warrant, particularly anytime you have a home invasion, state is very concerned about the risk and danger to the victims, especially with this kind of offense. The state would just ask for that. Also, of course, a stay away from 5200 North Somerset Lane in Alpharetta, and then also no contact with the victims in this case, Evelyn Torrance, and I believe that's the main victim, Your Honor.
What's the state's position on him living in Florida?
There's no allegation of a flight risk, but given the nature of the charges, I would at least ask for the defendant to have an ankle monitor if he would reside. I would oppose him staying in Florida, but if the court is inclined, I would ask for an ankle monitor, definitely for some sort of way that we'd be able to maintain contact with him, given the nature of the charges, Your Honor.
All right. So I got 25,000, 25,000, 10,000, 25,000, 25,000, and 5,000. One more time for you, Ms. Badar. 25,000, 25,000, 10,000, 25,000, 25,000, and 5,000. No further contact with Evelyn Torrance, Torrence, or Gina Dawson, Dawson. No drugs unless prescribed, no alcohol, no weapons. Stay out of Fulton County unless you're here for court or to see your lawyer. You're going to have an ankle monitor paid for by the county with a 24-hour curfew. Court, lawyer, medical, employment. As long as you supply the name of your employer, proof of employment schedule, and the exact location that you will be working. The only reason you come to Fulton County, sir, is court or see your lawyer. You fill up with gas, get something to eat before you even cross that county line. Because you get something to eat at the courthouse, but do not hang out in Fulton County at all. Stay away from 5200 North Somerset Lane in Alpharetta. That's in Fulton County, so it shouldn't be a problem. Best of luck to you, sir. All right, let's see. Jakeem Foster. All right, let's see. Ms. Strong. This says position 19, Bostic 23 CP 215138. 262 days without indictment. There's a $360,000 good bond as of May the 11th. Reckless driving, driving improper red lane change, ag assault, cruelty in the third, cruelty in the first, ag assault, terroristic threats and acts.
Judge, in regards to this defendant for prior arrest in Georgia, misdemeanor, appears to have an open case in Nevada for a machete and firearm domestic violence from October 7th, 2022. And then in California, there was arrest for corporal punishment on a spouse, but it says no longer interested next to it. Nothing further.
All right. Go ahead, Ms. Strong.
Thank you, Your Honor. Mr. Forrester is 28 years old. He will be turning 29 years old this week. As you heard, he has been in jail for 262 days on these charges without indictment. He is a high school graduate. He graduated from Mount Zion High School in Jonesboro, Georgia. He also attended North Carolina A&T University for 2 years, where he studied biology. He's very intelligent. He worked for a year and a half for Tesla in Nevada. He has repeatedly requested our help in getting into a program, but his bond remains too high for us to do anything to help him. His mother is on the Zoom tonight to support her son, most notably because on August the 31st, he was stabbed in jail by some inmates who were improperly secured that lived on his floor. He had to go to Grady for being stabbed in the stomach and the arm. I'm very concerned about his safety in the Fulton County Jail, and he does have a good address. If he is granted a reasonable bond this evening and the permission to leave the state, he'll reside with his mother, Miss Johnson, in Canton, Michigan. He is open to any conditions that y'all want to put on the bond, so long as he's allowed to go and live with his mother. Some of these charges are misdemeanors that still seem to have a very high bond. What I'm requesting is a $5,000 on the reckless driving, $5,000 on the erratic lane change, $10,000 on the misdemeanor threats, $10,000 on the misdemeanor cruelty, $25,000 on the first degree cruelty, $25,000 on the one count of aggravated assault, and $10,000 on the second count of aggravated assault, for a total of $90,000.
Says the state.
And I would ask for the conditions to remain the same of no contact as well as no weapons or firearms. I would, and particularly the condition of no driving, that would be the main concern. The state would ask for a bond of no less than half of that amount. The state is very concerned with the nature of the allegations in this offense. And so there are some concerns about danger to the victims, particularly the children in this case, that the state would be concerned with. I'd also be concerned with the defendants of flight risk and the danger of the community with the violent offenses in the defendant's history.
All right, so I've also sent his name to Madam DA, so she'll have it, and the number of days he's been in without indictment. His name's added to the list. No drugs unless prescribed, no alcohol, no weapons. You have and no driving until your bond is modified. So no driving at all. You're going to have an ankle monitor paid for by the county with a 24-hour curfew. Court, lawyer, medical, employment. And I think previously I put school. So if you registered for school, want to go back to school, sir, you have to show proof of enrollment, the classes, and the schedule you're going to be having. An ankle monitor in at 24 hours. So if you're not doing any of that, you have to stay at home, and you have to email the ankle monitoring company and email your lawyer too. Don't call your lawyer and say, hey, I've got to go to school. Just let them know your schedule. No further contact with Chase Forrester, Forrester, and Kia, Kea Baldwin, Baldwin. It must supply an address. You'll file a change of address, Ms. Strong.
Yes, Your Honor.
All right. Stay out of Fulton County unless you're here for court or to see your lawyer. Do not come back to Fulton County for anything except court and see your lawyer. Now, don't come back and have a court date and say, yeah, Judge Manning said don't come to Fulton County. Wrong answer, okay? Court to see your lawyer. All right. Since it's been so long, I got 5,000, 5,000, 25,000, 25,000, 25,000, 10,000, and 25,000. One more time for you, Ms. Strong. 5,000, 5,000, 25,000, 25,000, 25,000, 10,000, and 25,000.
Thank you, Your Honor. That's my last case. May I be excused?
Yes, ma'am. Best of luck to you, sir. You can leave the booth. I got Ahmad Fields. All right, number 14, Bostic, Mr. Lang. Mr. Lang, I'm sorry. If this was your only case, I wish you'd have said something right or paid attention. I'd have tried to get you out of here quicker.
No worries, Your Honor.
All right, number 14, I've got no bond on 23 CP 218743, 122 days without indictment. Ahmad Fields, aggravated assault.
Judge, in regards to Mr. Fields, 2 prior arrests in Georgia, arrests in California. Open case 21 CP 203999, simple assault, fair violence, and terrorist threats. 2018 carjacking out of, I think, California. Nothing further.
All right, go ahead, Ms. Lang.
Yes, Your Honor. Mr. Fields is 29 years old, lived in Georgia for the last 5 years at an address in Hampton, Georgia with his grandmother. At the time of his arrest, he had several jobs. He was working with a family cleaning company. However, I spoke to his mother, Miss Fields, today, and that cleaning company, their contract has run out, so that job will not be available to him upon release. However, even while in custody, his family has helped him sign up for First Place Temp Service and one of the tradesman temp services. So I'm confident he'll be able to find employment upon release. He's also signed up with the Goodwill Industries job program and should be getting in touch with them once he gets released to help get back into the workforce. He graduated high school, graduating from a military academy in Virginia, then studying 1 year at the University of Utah and 2 years at Drexel University, studying finance and sports management. He has his associate's degree in that field. Looking at the information presented, he's been in over 90 days without bond set in this case, does not currently have a bond amount at all set in this case. I'm asking the court to consider a $5,000 good bond based on the amount of time he's been in custody, the limited nature of his criminal history, and the fact that Miss Jennifer Fields, the alleged victim in this case, is present today on the call in support of Mr. Fields, her son, and did want to address the court if the court would be willing to hear a statement from him.
Sure. Ms. Fields, if you want to turn your camera on for me, take yourself off mute so I can swear you in.
Hello, Your Honor.
How you doing? Can you raise your right hand, ma'am? Do you swear firm testimony you're about to give is the truth, whole truth, nothing but the truth?
Yes.
All right, Mr. Lang, do you want to ask her any questions?
Ms. Fields, you had indicated to me earlier that you had a statement you wish to give to the judge, and then I may have a follow-up question after that statement.
Okay, Judge, I just wanted to address the court and I appreciate you allowing me to. So Mr. Fields, my son, he has some MH issues, and on the day in question, there was a crisis that was going on. I had called to the crisis line to have some people come out. What I was told was if he was still there, that they would come. By the time they got to my home, he had left and the police, still came. He still was not back at my house. He had gone to his grandparents or wherever he was at. And he has, since the time of my call, had come back to my house. We hadn't had any issues or anything like that. And then I happened to be out of town and he got picked up on the street off of a warrant. I wasn't in town, so I don't know the details of that, but I just wanted to give just some idea of what was going on. In addition to his previous charges, those were also crisis issues. And that's all that I can say.
So Ms. Fields, what can we do to help you to get him to get on some medication and stay on medication?
It would be very helpful if the court would order that he be in some type of program where it be outpatient. I have a couple of places that my family has sourced out as far as like outpatient or inpatient for the first 30 days. I don't know how the system actually works, but for like 30 days, we have 2 places for sure that have a bed for him, but obviously they can't hold it much longer. And just to make sure that there is some type of group session or therapy or something like that that he is committed to, that he must have to do.
And you told that to Mr. Lang, right? He's really good at finding places like that for folks.
Yes, and I have spoken.
Okay. Anything else, Mr. Lang?
Ms. Fields, in the event that Mr. Fields were to get a bond, would you be one of the individuals helping him pay that bond?
Yes, I would.
If he were to be released on bond, would you wish to have further nonviolent contact with him?
Further nonviolent, yes.
If he were to be released, would he be welcome to return to your address or to another address? Would he still be welcome to be involved in your life?
Absolutely. He's still welcome to be involved in my life. During that transition, my parents, my mom and dad, who live in Clayton County, have offered up their home, just so we can kind of slow walk it into there. But yes, of course, he would be welcome back in my home.
I would have no further questions for Ms. Fields at this time, Your Honor. I have 1 or 2 sentences in summation of my argument, but I understand ADA Scott may have some questions.
All right, Mr. Scott.
I just did have a question for Ms. Fields, whether they've had any issues with defendant having these kind of actions before.
I'm sorry, repeat your question.
Is this the first incident of this nature with him?
Where he's been arrested? Yes, I have had the crisis unit out and, been a part of Mercy Care and things like that, where he, had the same crisis and where I had to call. There has been another issue where it was a terroristic threat, but the crisis unit came out. And so that's the other charge that's on there. But I was also the victim. My family was also the victim there. And again, that was during a crisis. And, just so that I can say, you know, I have been told, you know, I can call like the PAD unit or 988 or NAMI and all of that stuff. And then when I call those places, if Mr. Fields is not at the house or if he's not where the issue happened, then the police get involved. And that's not what our family wants. We're trying to get help, not him getting arrested.
I have no further questions from this witness, Your Honor.
All right, Mr. Fields. Wave your hand at me, Mr. Fields. All right. Is that woman that's sitting there, right? She will do anything for you. You understand that? So if we tell you that you've got to go participate in a program, you're going to participate, right? I understand there's a lot of mental health out there, and it takes a lot to admit that you have mental health problems, but it takes even more to address those, okay? But if you don't do it for anybody, at least do it for your mama, okay? All right. No drugs unless prescribed, no alcohol, no weapons. But you must take your drugs that you are prescribed. You're at Pine View Terrace, right? Okay, so stay away from 1573 Pine View Terrace unless you are invited. Okay, so if your mother invites you to come, you can go over there. You just can't wander and go over there. No further violent contact with Miss Jennifer Fields. And you're going to have an ankle monitor paid for by the county with a 24-hour curfew, court, lawyer, medical, including MH and any kind of other therapy that you need to get, and employment, as long as you supply the name of your employer, proof of employment schedule, and the exact location you're going to be working. But you must participate in the program and keep Mr. Lang up to date. Ma'am, can you, $2,000, can you afford that? I think it's like $210.
That would be about $200 to $250 through a bail bonds company.
Yes, yes, I can.
Okay. Okay, so it'd be a $2,000 good bond. So yeah, get in touch with the bonding company and they'll be able to do it. All right. Just make sure you keep it charged, sir, and participate in those programs. Okay. All right. Thank you. And thank you, Miss Fields. And thank you for saying that. And well, I noted on there that you testified, and thank you for trying to take care of your son and do the right thing. And I know the last thing you want to do is call 911, but sometimes it's hard.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yes, ma'am. Have a good afternoon.
You too.
Your Honor, that concludes my business before you. May myself and Ms. Fields be excused.
Yes, sir. Nice to meet you, Miss Fields.
Thank you, Your Honor.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Fields. You can leave the booth. All right. I got Artist Powell. Artist Powell. There we go. Number 10. Is this going to be Mr. Hines again? Yeah. Okay. Number 10, 22 CP 213092. 347 days without indictment, aggravated assault, willful obstruction, felony, disorderly conduct. There's a $15,000 good bond set up May 25th. Wow. 5 North, booth 1. Stop. Go ahead. Wow.
I got 12 car cycles, and I only felony is a prior burglary is all I wrote down.
Okay. Go ahead, Mr. Hans.
Thank you, Your Honor.
And I've added his name to the email.
I appreciate that. As you said, Mr. Powell's been incarcerated 347 days without indictment. That's 2.5 weeks from a year. His bond has been $15,000 since May 25th of this year. And the last time it was reduced before that was at the end of January. Mr. Powell is a 53-year-old man. He is residentially challenged, Your Honor. He has history with the men's reentry program, and I'm trying to get him in touch with his case manager there. Also, my office is exploring other options to help him with shelter. Mr. Powell suffers from seizures, and he receives disability for that condition. He also lives with hypertension and was recently tested for a rare bone disease for which he's awaiting results. He does have his high school diploma, and I would submit that his criminal history is not severe, egregious, or too lengthy. Briefly, in this case, Your Honor, the knife allegedly used was a pocket knife. The alleged victim was actually the aggressor and began this incident by assailing Mr. Powell. And as the police report itself stated, she was still standing there yelling at him and going back and forth, as you would not expect someone who's in fear for their life to do. Given the nature of these allegations, given the length of time Mr. Powell has been here, which again, it bears repeating, is a staggering year, the abysmal conditions at Rice Street, and the fact that the piecemeal bond reduction he's grateful to have received over time have not resulted in his pretrial release, I'm now asking for a total bond of $1,000. Thank you.
Says the state.
The state would ask for a little bit higher, Your Honor. The state does not oppose a low bond. Well, when I say low, I just say no less than 5,000, Your Honor. The state is concerned with the injury to Courtney Spells in the warrant. The state would ask for all the conditions to remain the same. I do understand it's been some time. The state is concerned a little bit with the risk to reoffend with that 18 CR 0095J, which is a misdemeanor offense of obstruction. But the state would just ask for no less than 5,000 aggregate, 4 for the ag assault and 1 for the obstruction, Your Honor.
Let's see. All right, no drugs unless prescribed, no alcohol, no weapons. Stay away from 48 Martin Luther King Jr. Drive. You're gonna have an ankle monitor paid for by the county with a 24-hour curfew. Court, lawyer, medical, employment, as long as you supply the name of your employer, proof of employment schedule, the exact location you'll be working. Also, you must provide an address where you're going to be living. No further contact with Courtney Spells, Spells, Officer E as in Edward Hall, or investigator Christopher Davison, Davison, unless in their official capacity. 4,000, 1,000, and the disorderly conduct will remain at UJR jail. Best of luck to you, sir. You can leave the booth.
Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Showalter, Mr. Power, sorry, I didn't realize y'all just had the one case, or I would have tried to help y'all out and get you out of here. All right, Brandon Jones. So the only other person he's in here is Henry Riley. So who's the 3 South? See, 3 South. That is, are you Cedric Holmes? Your case was indicted, sir. And it's on, I think, Judge Whitaker, right, Bostic? So your lawyer will get in touch with you. You can go ahead and leave the booth. Your case has been indicted. All right. So Brandon Jones, number 15, Bostic. Right now there is a $55,000 split bond, 150 days without indictment. Got entering an auto with the attempt to commit a theft or a felony, possession of a firearm by a convicted felon, possession of a sawed-off shotgun, sawed-off rifle, machine gun, or dangerous weapon or silencer, theft by receiving stolen property, possession of a firearm or knife during the commission of a felony, unlawful for a person to acquire, maintain through criminal gang activity or proceeds derived from such, unlawful for a person employed by associated criminal street gang to conduct or participate in criminal street gang activity, unlawful for a person to commit the offense with the intent to obtain, earn membership, maintain, or increase status, unlawful for a person to acquire, maintain through gang activity or proceeds, unlawful for a person to be employed by, associated with a street gang or participate in criminal street gang activity, unlawful for a person to commit the offense with the intent to obtain, earn membership, maintain, or increase status, unlawful for a person to acquire, maintain through criminal gang activity or proceeds derived therefrom, unlawful for a person employed by, associated with a criminal street gang to conduct or participate in criminal street gang activity, unlawful for a person to commit the offense with the intent to obtain membership or earn or increase status, unlawful for a person to acquire, maintain through criminal gang activity or proceeds derived from, unlawful for a person employed by, associated with a criminal street gang to conduct or participate in criminal street gang activity, unlawful for a person to commit the offense with the intent to obtain, earn membership, maintain, or increase status, unlawful for a person to acquire, maintain through criminal gang activity proceeds derived from, unlawful for a person to be employed by, associated with a criminal street gang to conduct or participate in criminal street gang activity. And then lastly, unlawful for a person to commit the offense with the intent to obtain, earn membership, maintain, or increase status.
This is Brandon Jones, correct?
Yes, ma'am.
6 prior cycles, open case 23 CP 221041, aggravated assault, riot 23 CR 00183 1F, battery, family violence, cruelty, probation, sentence in 2018, aggravated assault, street gang charges, 2 count, sentence in 2018, 4 years confinement, 6 years probation, nothing further.
All right. Go ahead, Mr. Showalter.
Your Honor, Brandon Jones is 23 years old. He's an Atlanta native. He has two children, one that's probably around a year old by now and a 3-year-old. And he was working at the time of his arrest at a UPS store, and he has a good address on file.
Is it in Fulton County?
Yes.
Okay.
And I'm asking for a bond less than $20,000, especially considering that a number of these charges were dismissed at his preliminary hearing. Some of the charges I heard you still read out were dismissed.
Hold on a second, because let me look. When did he have his prelim?
That was September 7th, Your Honor.
Hold on a second, let me look. Hold on, let's see what's. There's something I check it, and if it wasn't filed in, I'm not able to. Hold on, it's coming up. Well, I just read off 21 counts. So what counts were dismissed?
All of the charges that are labeled come from 1615-4C. So
Yes.
those are all the ones that are saying acquire, maintain, proceeds with that language.
All right, so you don't know the numbers there. I got to go through it anyway. All right, I can look at this. Go ahead,
I
Mr.
do
Powers.
have the numbers, Your Honor.
The only thing I see on here that's got a dismissal is possession of a firearm by a convicted felon.
Yeah, it was one of those as well, because he was like double charged, and then all of the ones about acquiring to something to get proceeds.
So on Odyssey, it still shows all of these charges still active.
All right.
That's what I'm saying. I don't see anything. All I see is a reset order. I'm not saying you're not telling the truth, but if there's an order, I don't see it.
Okay.
Mr. Powers, can you help us out with anything?
Well, Judge, I'm not sure. I didn't handle that hearing at the time, but I think what Mr. Showalter is saying is accurate. I did observe that hearing. I do remember the state saying at that time that they were not going to be going forward with those charges. I'm not sure why an order hasn't been filed yet. If that is true, I'm not sure what the next step was. Like I said, I was just observing that hearing. As for this case, Judge, we would just ask that you maintain the bond as it is. We think that Mr. Jones is a risk to reoffend. Clearly, he's involved with some bad activities and has been in the past. And the main thing that really concerns us here, Judge, is the firearm charge. This was a Glock that had been modified in such a way to turn into a machine gun, which is extremely dangerous. And we would just ask that the bond just be maintained where it is right now.
All right. So I know I reset the bond hearing. Did I do the prelim on the 7th? No, I didn't.
No, you didn't, Your Honor.
So
I want to say it was Judge Hughes, but I can't be certain.
So I guess Ms. Lewis or Ms. Gaston, we just got to figure out where that order is so we'll know, because I don't want to. Well, and before I even get there, though, Mr. Powers, there's this little thing called the Constitution. So he's got to have a bond. He's been there 150 days. He hasn't been indicted.
Yes, sir. Yes, ma'am.
No, that's okay. That's all right. I work for a living. Don't worry about that. All right. So, and I'm not doubting you at all, Mr. Showalter. So do you think, Ms. Gaston or Ms. Lewis, that we could somehow find that so that the bond order may not get done until tomorrow?
That's correct. I need to check with Ms. Watts. It was a case that we heard. And so I just need to get with Ambria Watts and just go over all of these charges with her. So
okay, so we'll figure it out. But you're saying anything to increase status, Mr. Showalter?
No, it's anything to acquire proceeds.
Oh, acquire proceeds. Okay. All right, go ahead with your argument, Mr. Powers.
Well, Judge, anything that already has a bond, we would ask for it to be maintained at that level. If there's any charges that don't have a bond, we would ask for a $50,000 bond on those charges, just based on his history. Would also ask for conditions to have no contact with any criminal street gang members, no firearms, no replicas of firearms. That's what we ask for.
So it looks like it was counts, 7, 10, 13, 16, and 19. Does that sound right?
Exactly, Your Honor. Yes.
Hey, wait a minute. Yeah, okay, so. All right, let's see. No drugs unless prescribed, no alcohol, no weapons, no replicas of weapons, no social media, no further contact with JAROL Avila, AVILA. Stay away from 1212 James Jackson Parkway. No further contact with Robert Smith. No further contact with Sullivan Collin, COLIN. No further contact with any gang members, gang affiliates, wanting to be a gang, thinking they're a gang, saying they're a gang, especially anyone from non-Trey gangster bloods. Ankle monitor paid for by the county with a 24-hour curfew, court, lawyer, and medical only. So, let's see. I'll do 50 on each gang charge. So that's, let's see, 8, 9, 11, 12, 14, 15, 17, 18, 20, and 21. Then 10, 10, 10, 50 on count 4, 10, and 10. So 10, 10, 10, 50,000, 10,000, 10,000, 7, if it's going to be dismissed. So we'll hold off on submitting it. I'm pretty sure they can figure it out. So all the other gang charges will be 50. And the ones that should have probably been dismissed was count 7, 10, 13, 16, 19. Did I miss one?
I need you to run that back one time, Judge. I got all the 50s for 8, 9, 11, 12, 14, 15, 17, 18, 20, 21. I need you to run back whatever was the 10K.
Count 1 is 10. Count 2 is 10. Count 3 is 10.
Okay.
Count 4 is 50. Count 5 is 10.
Okay.
Count 6 is 10.
Got it. Thanks, Judge.
So it should be 7, 10, 13, 16, 19 that are dismissed.
Okay, that's what I have. I have 10, 10 on the charges. I have 10, 10, 10, 50, 10, 10, 50 each on 8, 9, 11, 12, 14, 15, 17, 18, 20, and 21. And the ones we need to check to see if they were dismissed are going to be 7, 10, 13, 16, and 19.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, if they were not dismissed, what do we do?
If they weren't, we'll just do them at 50. But Mr. Showalter, wait a few days and file another bond, file another bond motion and give it a few days. So Mr. Jones will figure this out, okay, and get it figured out and get it back to you. All right. Now, it's Yom Kippur on Monday, but Ms. Lewis, if y'all figure it out, you can reach out to me if you have to, if you absolutely have to. But hopefully we'll figure it out sometime before then.
Right. I meant to follow up with you on that today. It's just been.
Yeah, that's okay. So we'll figure it out.
Yes, Judge.
And this Showalter, so if you get something and we get something, we'll email you too, and we'll copy Mr. Powers.
Thank you, Judge.
All right. Thank y'all. Have a good evening.
You too. Thank you.
All right. You can leave the booth. All right. Mr. Riley, this is number 6. Last one on Mr. Hines. Mr. Hines, your ear should have been burning last night. I was talking about you. It was good, but your name came up when I was talking about you.
Oh, my name came up.
Right. It was good. I mean, it was, so if your ears were burning, it was good. I was talking about you. All right. Number 6, 23 CP 218427, Henry Edward Riley, 134 days without indictment. I'm sure you're waiving 1, 2, 3, 4 charges. There's a $120,000 bond as of 5/12/2023.
Repeat offender. They're fairly old. History of DUIs. 28 prior cycles. Nothing further.
All right. Go ahead, Mr. Hines.
Mr. Riley has been incarcerated for 134 days. He's had his bond of 120,000 since his first appearance in early May. He has a bond as OCGA 17-7-50 requires, but I would submit, if not in the letter of the law, in the spirit of the law, that giving an indigent client a $120,000 bond, he can't dream of wishing to probably maybe one day make, is akin to setting no bond at all. Mr. Riley's a 59-year-old man. He's residentially challenged, but he is a lifelong resident of Georgia. Most of his family's here, including his grown son. He is a high school graduate and has some college. He supported himself for years doing barber work up until the time he became homeless. And he was honorably discharged in 1987 after 8 years in the National Guard. Mr. Riley, in all frankness, has still not had his preliminary hearing, but he does vigorously deny these allegations, and he's actually quite baffled by them. I have reason to believe, quite frankly, at least one of these charges will be dismissed at prelim, which is saying a lot. And as we all know, with cases like this, the more time goes on, it gets harder and harder to nail down the facts, and it becomes harder to make a defense. And I don't think I'm being hyperbolic in saying Mr. Riley is being punished in this way. And as we know, pretrial detention is patently not supposed to be about punishment. What we have here are allegations that took place a year before disclosure, which I know is not uncommon. And then Mr. Riley was arrested, I think, over a year later, even though he wasn't hiding, and in fact got a new ID card at DDS in the interim. As pretrial said, his criminal history, it's been a while since he's been arrested, and it mostly over years and years, honestly, it mostly consists of DUIs, nothing that would give an inkling of the allegations in the instant case. So my point in the timeline is not to say, oh, people don't disclose later. Of course, he's presumed innocent of these allegations. My point is that it's getting harder and harder as time goes by for Mr. Riley to make a defense, preserving evidence and the like, and he's sitting in the dark without discovery, which will, of course, include critical statements that we can't get except by becoming entitled to discovery. So I'm asking for his bond to be reduced to $25,000 given all of this. Thank you.
And I see these alleged incident dates were in 2021.
Judge Manny, the prelim is set for 10-3 at 1 o'clock. I believe it's going to be before you.
Okay. All right. Go ahead, Mr. Scott.
Your Honor, the state would be asking for a higher bond than that. The state is mainly concerned with danger to the victim, particularly with the allegations in this, particularly any allegations of force gives the state some concern. I would agree with the defense that the cases don't get better over time, but I imagine it's worse for both sides as time goes on. But well, I guess luckily the legislator has enabled an extended statute of limitations for these kind of offenses because it does take time for people to make disclosures of that nature. I'm not saying that's what happened in this case, but unfortunately it will happen in these kind of cases. The state would ask for it to remain at the 30 amount for the two bottom cases, two last cases on the calendar. And for the first and second, the state would ask for no less than 20 each. State, just given the nature of allegations, particularly the danger to the victim, the state would be asking for that. And also no contact with Demetric Richardson and a stay away from 320 Lakeview Place, apartment 312, no social media, and no contact with certain individuals below a certain age, Your Honor.
All right, no drugs unless prescribed, no alcohol, no weapons, no further contact with DR. And like I said, Ms. Lewis, you can get the name off the previous warrant. No further contact with anyone under the age of 18. You can have an ankle monitor paid for by the county with a 24-hour curfew, court, lawyer, medical, employment, as long as you supply the name of your employer, proof of employment schedule, and the exact location you'll be working. No social media, no internet, and stay away from 3200 Lakeview Place in East Point. 20, 25, and 25. And I'll address bond again, Mr. Hines, at his, since it will be me, I'll address it again at his prelim, okay?
Yes, Your Honor. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Best of luck to you, sir. You can leave the booth. All right, I think that's it, everybody.
Legislative days, so members may submit any materials they wish to be included therein. Thank you, Ranking Member Torres, members of the subcommittee, and Chief Sund for joining us in today's oversight hearing.